Ladies, we're ready.
Good morning.
Congratulations, when are you due? Good day. Well, Merry Christmas. Welcome to another episode of Good Day. My name is Daniel Bennett. If you're watching this live, it's airing on Christmas Day 2024. Again, I don't know when you're actually watching this, but this is one of our Christmas special episodes. And yeah, it's great to have you join us. This is the second half of a two-parter. I've been talking about practical tips for playing with your kids. And so I think you're going to enjoy that. Again, I know it's an unusual topic. But yeah, I want to start off. Today we're doing something a little different. Yesterday I started with some recommendations for TV shows. And today I want to show a couple clips about playing with your kids. And so we have one quick video we're going to play first, and then I'll chat about it here in a moment.
Grandma, stop right there.
What are you doing?
You know, I haven't done this in a while.
What are you doing?
I haven't done this in a while.
No.
Grandma, stop.
Carter,
Grandma, stop juking.
you'll never catch me.
I will catch you, Grandma. I'm so sorry.
You're not sorry.
Anyway, I just love that video. Now, I know some of you might not enjoy that kind of game, but I just love this because not only is it funny, but it shows that clearly they've done this a lot. And she probably played like this with him when he was like 2 years old. And so it's so cool to see that relationship where they're playing. I've actually seen that they have other videos of this same guy and his grandma. In another one, he sneaks up on her and shoots at her, and she reaches and grabs her own Nerf gun and starts chasing him. And so they have these whole battles going on. And I just love that. Again, it just showing that imagination where it's like, instead of just saying like, don't do that, or just playing with the guns, like you see her going into full on acting mode and just making this really, really fun. I love, because I mean, you can tell she has this amazing sense of humor also. I love how she says at the very end, you're not sorry. as if it's this real thing. So they're hilarious. I think, anyway, I really love that video. And again, this is a great example of what I talk about with playing with your kids. I know this is a grandma situation, not a mother, but again, you can just make stuff fun. And I mean, think about it. Like they've clearly been doing this for a long time, and talk about the memories were, you know, just to look back and be like, man, I loved playing that game with my grandma or with whoever else. And so, I mean, there's certain card games or board games that my family used to play at the holidays. They're always so much fun. I have so many great memories. My family used to play Balderdash at Christmas when we'd all get together. It's this really fun game where you make up definitions of words and you have to guess what the right definition is. And I have such great memories of playing this, of like my granddad, my grandma, others making these really funny guesses and the whole deal. And so, again, I love that video. It's a great example of playing with your kids. We have one more quick video before we get to the practical tips. So we'll watch that right now.
Ready?
Watch.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's so much fun. I know everyone, if you've ever done Christmas traditions, things like that, you can relate in some way, whether as a parent or as a child or something. But it's so much fun to remember what it's like to see things for the first time. And that's part of the joy of parenting even, is that you get to see through your kids' eyes something that you might be so used to that you forget it's a big deal. So it can be very, very fun. Something I was thinking about was, imagine going to heaven and you can fly. And so you start flying around, you're like, this is amazing. I always hoped I could fly. This is so much fun. And imagine after 10 minutes, someone said like, okay, knock it off. You've had your fun. Let's move on. You're like, what? Like, I'm trying to have my fun. Like, yeah, but there's so many other fun things to do. You'd be like, yeah, but can I just enjoy this? And that's one of the things with kids, where sometimes we encourage kids to move on and say like, whatever, let's move to the next thing. But imagine if someone did that to you. If you were having a blast, if something was just amazing and just shocked you with how good it was, if someone else said like, it's not a big deal, let's move on. So I love just really taking the moment to enjoy that, to make it a big deal. Let things be a big deal. It's so easy to make things just be normal or tell people to get over it, to move on. But life is so much more fun and so much more magical when you intentionally make things a big deal. You build up the hype, you build up the excitement, and you just enjoy it, right? I mean, that's one of the joys of parenting, is moments like that, right? One of my favorite photos of my daughter is when she was looking at our son, our first son, when he had just been born. She's just looking at him, just amazed, like, you were inside mommy's tummy just a little while ago, right? And just seeing their facial expressions remind us of something deeper inside that sometimes we can forget, you know. I think it's very precious to God to maintain a childlike heart. And so sometimes seeing children enjoy things can remind us of a deeper experience that we still long for, that we still like to enjoy with God. So anyway, hope you enjoyed the videos, and now we're going to get back to practical tips about playing with your kids. Well, today I'm continuing practical tips on playing with your kids. And as I mentioned yesterday, you know, this might sound like a weird topic, but it was something that I was genuinely concerned about when I was expecting our first, right? My wife and I, when we had our first on the way, it's like, I don't know if I will know how to make a great childhood for my kids. I don't know, like, do I know how to play with them? I didn't have any experience with that. For some people, it's so obvious and so easy. I've never heard anybody teach on this. And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to share the things that I needed, that I figured out on my own sometimes, or inspired by other people, just in case anybody else out there might benefit from it. And so I've been going over some practical tips to play with your kids because, again, there's many different facets to parenting. I love being a dad. I love being a parent. And some people have experience, but many people go into it saying, like, I have no clue what's going on, how to do this. So this is a two-parter, so I do recommend going back to the first part also if you haven't seen that one. Personally, I mean, it's Christmas Day, so I'm not offended at all if you're skipping the show today. I'm sure there's other things you could be doing on Christmas Day right now than watching TV, or maybe not. I actually like watching stuff on Christmas Day also. My family tradition used to be to go to the movie theater on Christmas Day after all the presents and stuff. So whatever your tradition is, no judgment from me. Maybe a little, I don't know. Depends what it is. Some of the ones I covered yesterday, I won't go into them right now, but some are introducing your kids to things that you enjoyed as a child, but also embracing things they enjoy that maybe you don't relate to, right? Time changes, technology changes. So instead of just cutting ourselves off and saying, like, I'll never get to know my kids because they like things I don't like, just learn it, embrace it. Figure out how to do stuff that they enjoy. Tip number 3 was improvise. All right, you can just make things up on the spot. If a game you want to play doesn't work out, just change the game, do something else. Tip number 4 is that even dumb ideas can be fun. Right, it's about the energy and the fun you bring to it. Tip number 5 is empathy, right? Paying attention. What are they enjoying? What are they not enjoying? Just paying attention. Not every child's the same. They have different interests, different things they enjoy, different things they don't like. Right? If you pay attention when one of them stops liking something, right? If one of them is no longer in a rowdy mood, right? They don't want to wrestle anymore. Then if you notice in advance, then you don't risk them having a bad time that you tried to throw them up in the air and they throw up all over you or something. Has that happened? Yeah, that's probably happened to every parent. You lift your child up and they decide to throw up in your face. Good times, really. It's I don't know what it is about parenting. There's a special grace to get thrown up on. So tip number 6, this is the one I ended with last time, but hype is huge. And I think I'll mention it again because I had to rush a little bit last time. But again, it's not just what you do, but it's also setting the stage, right? Like, think of Christmas morning. It's not just Christmas morning. It's not just here's a present, but what do you do? For days, for weeks in advance, you decorate. You put presents under the Christmas tree, you wrap them. Kids get, when I was a kid, I loved to try and guess what my presents were. And you shake the box and try and hear sounds. You try and push the wrapping paper really close or hold it up to a light to try and see through it and all that. So you have anticipation. And then Christmas morning is so exciting, right? You go downstairs or whatever and run to the tree and the whole deal, whatever your family tradition is. It's not just Christmas Day. You can do this with anything. You can make anything really, really fun. You can just say, we're going to do something really crazy today, or I have a special surprise for you today. And you start hyping it up. And you can create this anticipation and excitement for things, and then you show them what it is. And sometimes you have to carry it, right? You have to carry the energy where they're like, what? And then if you're excited enough, they'll start to be like, okay, this must be really exciting. And so you can make things really amazing just by hyping things up. Whatever it is, right? If your spouse is coming home, you can hype the kids up so that they're super excited when your spouse gets home instead of being really distracted or something. And so you can do this in many, many different things. This isn't just for playing. This can be for education, right? I love to hype things up, or I celebrate like crazy when my kids have some kind of milestone, right? When they do something for the first time, they learn something, right? When my kids say, just a few weeks ago, I got home and I was told, my boy said he could count from 1 to 200. And so, right, most parents, right, in the back of your mind, you're like, man, that'll take a long time. But it's like, doesn't matter. Do it. Show me. I want to hear you count from 1 to 200 right now. And so you just sit there and you're excited the whole way through. And then you say, can you go to 300? Right? So I'll get to that more in a little bit. But again, hyping things up is huge. So tip number 7 is when you're playing with your kids, it isn't your job to play. And maybe you could phrase that many different ways. But what I mean by this is that when you're playing with your kids, especially, again, I'm sharing a lot of this from the perspective of a dad. And so a lot of these involve roughhousing and doing things that sometimes when my wife is gone is when I play some of these games with the kids, when she's running errands and then she comes home and they tell her all the things we did, that she looks at me and she's like, you did what? Right? You put the slide on the counter and whatever it is. But it's not your job to actually play. It's your job to make it look like you're playing when actually you are making sure none of them get injured, okay? Right, so that's one of the keys, especially the way dads typically play, is that when I'm wrestling with my kids, I'm not actually wrestling. I'm making it look like I'm wrestling while I'm making sure they don't get hurt. And so I pretend I might be flipping them and spinning them as I gently set them down. I'm throwing myself in the way. When they're about to headbutt, I make sure I'm the one who gets hurt, right? So you're playing 2 games in one. If you don't just cut loose and say like, we're wrestling, okay, I'm gonna wrestle. Like, that's ridiculous. I try and tell my daughter, because she's the oldest, when you're bigger, you have to pay attention and make sure no one else is getting hurt, right? So this might sound obvious to a lot of people, but again, it's not your job just to say like, oh, we're going for it. We're wrestling, we're doing this, we're sword fighting, I'm gonna take you down. No, pretend, make them feel like it's real, but you're actually the one, you're more like the host, right? It's kind of like if you have company over and you serve a meal, you're hosting for other people. It's you get enjoyment by creating an environment for them to have fun. You're actually working to create that atmosphere and that environment. Same with playing. Your fun is in creating opportunities for them to have fun while you're secretly catching them when they're falling off of things or keeping things from getting broken, right? You're paying 10 times more attention than they're paying. Right? You might make it look like you're throwing them across the room, but actually you're just gently tossing them onto a cushion or, things like that. On that note, I'll mention babies love to be involved. At least my kids do. And so each time, when I had my daughter and then my middle son right now, when he was a baby, I'd play hide and seek with my daughter and he couldn't walk yet. And you could see on his face, he just wanted to play. And even in my youngest right now, when I'd be wrestling with the older two, he'd be laying there, he couldn't walk or anything. And you could see he'd be like wiggling his arms and stuff and he wanted to wrestle with us. Now, obviously a baby can't wrestle, but you can involve the baby also. That just requires 10 times more energy, but it's so worth it. I highly recommend it, right? So like when I'm wrestling with the others, it's like, okay, I'm gonna pretend we're wrestling. So what's this look like? I pretend that he tackles me, but it's me, so when I say I've never acted, actually, I guess I have. Parenting, you do so much acting in parenting. So it's kind of like if you watch a kung fu movie or karate movie or something, it's the stunt doubles who are getting beat up who are actually doing the more athletic stunts. Because one guy pretends to punch them. The guy who was flying across the room, they're like this amazing athlete, but they're pretending like they're getting beat up when actually they're the ones doing these amazing feats of athleticism. It's kind of like what it is when you're the dad playing with your kids, is that my baby, I pretend he tackles me and I overact and I'm getting, I'm acting like he's the strongest person in the world, and I might pretend that I'm tackling him and I might pretend I'm about to squash him or something, but then you're making sure that the baby's really just laying there. But if you act well enough, your baby thinks that they're wrestling with you, and my baby loved that. I mean, now he's older, now he's 2, so he fights for real. I mean, he's strong too. They do not hold back. But anyways, so you can even involve babies in this stuff, right? I mean, when I'd play hide and seek, and my middle child, when he was a baby, I'd carry him with me and we'd hide together. So my daughter would come looking and he'd have this look on his face like, I don't know, I have no idea what's going on, but I'm so glad I'm part of this. And so you can even include your babies in this kind of roughhousing if you're careful, right? Again, it's not your job to actually play. You're just creating play for them. So, yeah, part of it also is even the emotional management, right? If they want to be the good guy, then you be the bad guy, right? If my boy's Captain America, I'll be Thanos. If my two boys both want to be Captain America, I'll explain to them. They don't have to fight, right? You know, kids can go back and forth between playing and fighting very easily. So if suddenly they get into a big fight, like, no, I'm Captain America. No, I'm Captain America. I'm like, hey guys, wait, it's okay. There can be two Captain Americas because of time travel. It works in the movies. Right? So I explain the rules to them, like, it's okay. You can both be Black Panther. You can be whatever. I'll be the bad guy. I'll be the one no one else wants to be. They both like to be Jack Sparrow, so I'll be Captain Barbossa. Whatever it is. So you're there kind of making sure you're moderating the whole deal. Let's see, I'll pick things up or else this will be a 3-parter. Tip number 8, I think I have 8 or 12 different tips. Tip number 8 is that you can look for inspiration everywhere. You can look for inspiration for different types of fun in games and activities with your kids. Once I took my daughter to a daddy-daughter dance, and it was a lot of fun, but I noticed they had these little lights, these little things that had multicolor lights and patterns and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, I wonder how much that is. So I went on Amazon and I found it for like $10 or something. So I ordered one of these dance disco light things, projectors. So I ordered one. So then again, going back into hype mode, I was like, we're having a dance party tonight. It's a big surprise. You can't go downstairs. And then I set it up, the lights. I take them downstairs, turn off all the lights, and I have this thing going on in the room. So the room's just multicolor everything. We turn on music and we have this amazing dance party. And so you can find inspiration everywhere. I had another example here. Oh yeah, for a while my kids were, and they'll probably still get back into it, but my kids love Little House on the Prairie. So once I was watching it with them and I was like, there's a blanket and there's their little cars. What if I put the blanket on top of the cars? And so I just wrapped the blankets around the cars and I said, look, I made you covered wagons. And they loved it, right? The cars had been sitting there for days and days without being touched. But now they were covered wagons. And so they hop into their covered, because they have Little House on the Prairie costumes, the whole deal. And so they jump into their covered wagons and go around and have a blast. So you can just look for inspiration for random stuff, like what's something they enjoy? How can you make it even more fun? Tip number 9 is a big one. Be patient. Okay. One of the keys to playing with kids is be patient, enjoy the moment, right? Something that kids can do that adults might struggle with is they can do the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over, and they do not get tired of it. Let them. That's fun for them. Why get annoyed, right? If they want to listen to the same song a million times, let them listen to the same song a million times. If they want to play the same game over and over and over and over, don't get annoyed, right? This is still fascinating for them, right? Adults might get jaded toward this and say, no, I need variety, I need new things, whatever else. Many times parents encourage their kids to move on because they think they tell themselves this is to help them. I want them to experience new things. But actually it's just because the parents are bored. Just roll with it. This is really fun for them. They don't mind repetition. That actually adds to the fun for them. I think I heard somebody, there's a study or something that children love pattern recognition. Because see, for us, it's old news. For them though, they're still amazed that they can predict what's about to happen. That's why they enjoy watching the same movie over and over and playing the same game over and over. One time, my daughter, because I know that she likes to be startled, she loves to freak out, right? Like I said, pretend to drop her, things like that. One day she was walking, when she was like 2, she was walking out of the kitchen and I hid behind a counter and I just jumped out and I said, boo, really loud. And she screamed like a little girl for like 30 seconds. She just screamed louder than I've ever heard and then burst out laughing. And she's like, again. And so guess what? She wanted me to hide around the house and jump out and say boo for like an hour. so like again. And she laughed every single time, even though she knew I was there, but she loved it. And so just go for it, right? Don't get bored and tell them to like, get over it. Let's do something else. Sometimes those might become some of the best memories, right? One time, if you know Mary Poppins, there's a scene in it where the neighbors, they shoot a cannon, like at the top of the hour or something like that. So a cannon goes off and the whole house shakes. And my daughter kept asking me to rewind to watch that part over and over. And every time the cannon went off, because inside the house, everything starts to fall over. So she would start running and pretend that like when the cannon went off, she like goes flying across the room. So she would run and jump Every time the cannon went, she'd jump from one side of the couch to the other side of the couch and roll like she was in this huge explosion. And she'd finish and she'd be like, again. So I rewound it again. Again, again, again. She probably did that like 25, 30 times and had a blast. And I'm so glad I did that because she's never asked to do that again since then. Right? You never know when it's going to be the last time, so just enjoy it. Don't fast forward things, just enjoy it. It was such a blast. Right, with one of my boys, once they wanted me to repeat this song from the Pirates That Don't Do Anything movie from VeggieTales. Rewound this song of these people in a bar singing some pirate song. Play it again. And it was a bit of a hassle because I had to kind of rewind, find the right spot, hit play. But I just went for it, and they had a blast. I had a blast. Again, so tip number 9 is be patient. Accept the fact that they like to do the same thing over and over. It's really fun for them. Don't just try to tell them to move on, do something else. Tip number 10. Oh, I really got to speed up. Don't always make them wait for when you want to play. Right? It's so easy to tell kids, not right now, not right now, not right now, later, no, later, all this kind of stuff. I'm not saying they should be in charge and that you can never do other things and stuff like that, but don't always make it revolve around you. Sometimes let them initiate when you start a game, when you do something fun, right? Maybe, it's easy to catch ourselves and realize like, you know what, I'm saying no just because I'm focused on what I want to do, but this is important to them, right? That's one of the keys to empathy. Just because it's not a big deal in the grand scheme of things doesn't mean it's not a big deal to them. And so don't just treat it as unimportant. This is really important to them. This is how they engage, they interact with you. And so let them initiate playing a game. Don't always wait for when you want to. Sometimes they'll, let them interrupt what you're doing sometimes. I'm not saying always. There's boundaries. You need to teach them to respect boundaries and stuff like that. But don't take that to the extreme where you always tell them no unless it's your idea. Because then I want them to look at me and think like, ooh, I wonder what I could play with Daddy today. Instead of them just getting used to like, he'll always say no unless he wants to. I want them to be excited and initiate playing a game with me. And just recently, later on, my kids told me that they got this idea from Bluey, which I didn't realize. But they were laying on the floor and they said, Daddy, can you pretend we're packages? I was just walking by doing something else and they're like, can you pretend we're packages? And I was like, what? And I was like, okay. I had no idea what I was supposed to do. So I just threw them over my shoulder and I carried them up to the stairs and I just chuck them on the bed. And I was like, all right, I delivered it to the patio or something. And they just burst out laughing. They ran back downstairs and said, pretend we're packages. And so we did this for like 30 minutes where I just kept chucking them on my shoulder, guessing what the package was, throwing them on the bed. And they love that. So even now, right now, sometimes I'll walk by them and they'll just be laying on the floor and I'll be like, oh, is that a package? Because they just see me and they're like, oh, quick, lay down on the floor and pretend you're a box. So most random game ever. So in tip number 11, don't let it ruin the day if someone has a meltdown. So I mentioned this already a little bit, but children, they still don't know how to regulate their emotions. They don't know how to process everything that they're feeling. That's part of why they still need parents. Instead of getting frustrated at them, just realize this is why they need me, is that they don't know how to do this yet. And so children can bounce back very quickly if we let them, right? So one minute you might be playing, maybe you put a lot of time and effort into creating some activity or a game or something like that, and then one of them starts to throw a fit, or the two of them start to fight with each other, or whatever it is. You can deal with that in a way where it's like we deal with it, but now let's go back to having fun. You don't have to let it ruin the whole day. It can be, no, let's bounce back. Like, okay, for 3 minutes, we had to deal with this situation, but now let's go back to having fun. And a lot of that is back to what I was saying earlier about your own energy, you being able to hype things up, is that if you deal with it and say, okay, let's go back to having fun now, right? Instead of like, you should feel guilty the rest of the day, things like that. Let them bounce back. Don't let it ruin the whole day because they can move on. It's amazing how, right, with adults, if two adults argue, they might be mad at each other for hours or for days. I'm not saying that's the right way to handle it, but many adults are like that. With children, though, they can throw a fit 1 minute, and if you let them, if you deal with it, correct them, move on, in 3 minutes, they might act like nothing ever happened. And so don't let it ruin the whole day. Typically, it's the adult who lets it ruin the whole day. The kids are like, I would have gone back to enjoying the day very quickly if you go about it the right way. Tip number 12. Okay, I got to speed up. Tip number 12. If I stopped saying that, I'd save myself so much time. So, public speaking tip. Stop telling everybody you're running out of time. Tip number 12 is get ideas from other people. So this is actually where I wanted to wrap up. I just want to list a few other ideas for you all. Again, like the shows that I mentioned, Andy Griffith's show, Home Improvement, Bluey, others, things like that. You can find ideas from many sources. When you see other people playing with their kids, or you see shows or movies or other things, you can steal ideas, right? So a few ideas I'll mention here to wrap up is you can make up songs to them, right? I never used to sing until I saw my little girl, and I was like, I can't help it. I'm going to sing to my little girl. It's actually the underlying, not to get too deep with this, it's kind of a lighthearted one, but I try to treat my kids the way that God treats me, right? My main source of inspiration is, how does God treat me? I want to treat my kids like that. God sings to me, I'm going to sing to my kids. And so I'd make up songs. Now I love it because my daughter loves to make up songs. And so I'll make up songs. I make up my own, but then also now we play with the AI website stuff where I'll throw in different things. I'll let them tell me what they want a song about, and I'll plug in the information, play a song, and we'll all laugh about it, or they'll dance to it or something like that. Another tip is helping them pretend. Another way, a few other tips, right? Helping them pretend. Kids love to pretend. My kids love costumes. I'm not sure if every single child in the world loves costumes, but many kids love costumes. We have so many, probably like 25 costumes per kid. It's ridiculous. They probably have more fake clothes than real clothes. When I go home, they're never wearing regular clothes. They're always dressed as somebody, right? Captain Hook or Peter Pan or Mary Poppins or Tinkerbell or probably not, I don't think anyway. There's so many costumes. It's amazing. They love it. They love to pretend. They love to watch a movie while dressed like the character, or even if they have never even seen the movie, right? They've never watched the Avengers, but they still love to be, Spider-Man or Captain America or Iron Man, the whole deal. For a while, my daughter dressed as Mary Poppins every single day. And so one year, my parents had given the kids this big bouncy horse. So I was like, there's a scene in Mary Poppins where they go on a horse race. So I was like, while she's dressed as Mary Poppins, she has the umbrella, the whole deal. This big white dress and an umbrella and the whole deal. So we put the horse in front of the TV, and we put on the horse racing scene so that she could pretend she's Mary Poppins in the movie. And so there's so many things that you can do just to make things a little bit more fun, more magical for the kids. Another fun thing to do with kids is slow motion videos. This is something that my kids love. It's like they might jump off of a couch with a sword and swing it, or do a somersault or whatever else, and you film it in slow motion, then they watch it again, and they just love trying new things, falling over, running, whatever else. Another idea is take something normal and make it extreme, right? So it's like, okay, we have a little slide for them inside the basement, but when their mother's not when my wife's not at the house, I'm like, what if I put it on top of the ottoman, so when they slide, they actually fall from the ottoman to the floor? And so just random things. You just say, how do I make this extreme? Just add the word extreme to this. And so we want to build a fort. What about an extreme fort? We want to play blocks. What about extreme blocks? And then they'll be like, what's that mean? And you'll be like, I have no idea, but I'll come up with something really quick. Building forts, catching them, right? This is one that I used to play with my dad all the time, where it's tickling's fun, but it's actually the fear of getting tickled that's more fun. Again, let me wait. My last little point here. Okay, childhood is important. That's the bottom line, is if we value it, we'll find ideas. We'll make it special. It'll be unique to your family, to your personality, to your kids. But the key really here is if we value it, we'll figure things out, we'll have a fun time. Childhood's amazing. Again, Merry Christmas, and we'll see you next time.